Hey guys, this is James Ballard from wildwings.co.uk, and today we're going to have a look at the slow aileron roll. So if you haven't seen the fast aileron roll in the beginner section, go ahead and watch that because this tutorial really starts where that one leaves off. So just to recap on that tutorial, we're going to do an aileron roll, and then when we become inverted, we use the down elevator to keep the plane level flight, and then we roll around again and use the up elevator to keep the plane from dipping. So every 180 degrees rotation, we're just going to use the elevator to keep the plane from falling. That was the fast aileron roll. Now, to do the slow aileron roll, first of all, we're going to be rolling slower because we need it to be more obvious that we're correcting these movements to start with. So, whereas before we used really low rates and then full aileron stick, now you might want to increase the low rates and still use full aileron stick, or if you prefer, go on to a high rates and not necessarily use full aileron roll, you might only want to use half. But you want to be rolling a little bit slower than you were in the fast roll so that you can see the corrections you're making. So you've got to remember, if you want to roll slower, you can reduce the rates and keep full movement, or you can use less movement. So you're coming in, and now what we're going to do is we're going to correct in every 90 degree rotation, whereas before we corrected every 180 degrees with the elevator, we're now going to correct every 90. So when we get to knife edge flight, we're going to correct with the rudder, and when we become inverted and upright, we're going to correct with the elevator. So let's start off with a left aileron roll. So you're coming into wind at about 1/2 to 3/4 power, and you put in a little bit of up elevator to start the manoeuvre, and then left aileron roll. So which rudder we're going to use in this knife edge position, and you should be able to know in the end automatically that you're going to use right rudder. So just to recap that point, if you are upright and you use the left aileron, well, if you're upright and you roll, either way, use the opposite rudder when you're in the knife edge to stabilise your flight. So upright left aileron means right rudder. Upright right aileron means left rudder. So we start this left roll. At this point, we're going to have right rudder. We're then going to carry on round, taking off the rudder and applying down elevator to keep it in this position. We're going to keep it rolling around with the left aileron, and now this time we've gone from inverted. So we've done inverted left aileron roll, which means we're going to have the left rudder. So if you're inverted and you roll with the aileron, you're going to use the same direction of rudder in order to stabilise the knife edge flight. And then we go around again and use the up elevator. So the thing we're going to want to look at next is the timing. So when we come in, we start with a little bit of up elevator and then start our roll and go into a knife edge flight. But if you keep the up elevator on, it's going to start to turn out, and we don't want that. So what we want to do is we want to take off the elevator, the up elevator, as we put on the right rudder. So it's all going to happen at the same time. So up elevator comes off as the right rudder comes on. Now the right rudder comes off as the down elevator comes on, then down elevator comes off as the left rudder comes on, and left rudder comes off as the up elevator comes on. So it's all sort of happening at the same time. It's not one, then the other. If you did one, then the other, it would be very sort of jerky. And if you kept one on for too long, longer than the other, then it would start to turn. And later on we want that, but we don't want that right now. So that's the basics of a slow roll. In fact, I'm just going to get my transmitter and take you through the movements with this one because it's quite complicated to get it all in the first go. So first thing we're going to do is have 1/2 to 3/4 power, and then we're going to have up elevator start the manoeuvre. Now, not all planes require the up elevator to begin with, and they might not need many corrections even while they're rolling. The Sebart Sukhoi that I use needs very small movements in order to keep it in level flight. And you might have a look at the footage in a minute and say, oh, but you're not actually moving anything. And actually I am moving all the surfaces, but only very slightly, just enough to keep it level flight. So it all depends on which plane you have. So 1/2 to 3/4 power, start with a bit of up elevator. Then get the plane rolling with your left aileron. Now if you've got low rates, full left aileron will do. Okay, now at this point you want to start putting on the right elevator, the right rudder as you take off the elevator. So now you're on your side and you just want to have right rudder, and you've taken off the elevator, so that sticks back to the middle. Then you apply down elevator and take off the rudder. Then you apply left rudder and take off the elevator. And then from that point, so that's in your knife edge, so you've got left rudder, take off the elevator, then take then up elevator and take off the rudder to finish that roll going round. So it's all quite complicated to begin with, but once you've had a few goes, you'll get it quite quickly. And remember, with rolls, it's always good to practice rolling both ways, especially getting the orientation with which rudder to use. So roll left, from upright, you want left aileron means right rudder to start with, and then left rudder when you get to this point. If you roll right, you want left rudder to start with, and then once you got to this point, you're going to have right rudder. So opposite rudder to begin with, same rudder from inverted. So have a go at that, and then here's some slow motion footage to have a look at just to see what this all looks like in real life. So start the manoeuvre by rolling and adding the rudder at the same time. Remember to keep this manoeuvre slow and controlled. The slower that you do the roll, the more obvious it is to people that you're using both the rudder and the elevator to correct your positioning. Okay, so here I'm going to use the beginning of the Cuban 8 as a linking manoeuvre to link one slow roll to the next. Linking manoeuvres are really important with aerobatic flying, so I really recommend that as much as you practice individual manoeuvres like the slow roll, you also practice a linking manoeuvre at the same time. You want to try and get your thumb movements for this manoeuvre into a familiar pattern, because it will help you with many of the manoeuvres in the advanced section that use a very similar pattern.